Phase 4 is upon us! Within the year, we will be up to our armpits in Disney Plus and Marvel content. WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, Blade, plus the debut of the new Captain America and an even smarter and more balanced Hulk. So while we still have time, let's find out exactly how the new shows will relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe we know and love. And how they just might take it to the next level, or should we say, the X level. Puns aside, Marvel has got a lot of new shows, so let's get on with it. Even though many fans thought that Bucky Barnes would be the one to inherit the Star-Spangled Shield, which is how it happened in one of the comic storylines, Sam Wilson the Falcon was the one chosen to be the next Cap in Endgame. Now, Captain America can fly. This decision was obviously controversial among fans and a certain character. Its consequences will be on full display in the upcoming The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as the buddy cop show will no doubt feature Bucky's resentments as one of its driving forces. Although the two have been forced to work together in the past, neither Winter Soldier or Falcon have ever enjoyed it, bickering over the smallest details like the legroom in the backseat of a car. At least it'll be fun to watch. Could this bickering overcome comedy and become a real nemesis relationship like they had back in the beginning of time in the MCU? It's definitely a possibility. If the two do end up on the outs, a mutual friend of theirs, the most patriotic of superheroes, might just have to come back out of retirement and give them a little talking to. Maybe the most exciting and open-ended show set to be released on Disney Plus is the What If series, an ingenious way to reimagine or recycle, depending on how cynical you are, the stories that have already been told in the 23 existing MCU films. Each episode will apparently be retelling different Marvel events with small twists that lead to massive ripple effects. In other words, just when you thought the Avengers series was finished, it's coming back with an animated alternate ending. One of the stories most certain to be retold is the ending of the Avengers Infinity Saga, where huge events like Iron Man's death and the defeat of Thanos could be completely avoided by a small twist in the distant past. One idea that's been floated around is if thousands of years ago back in Asgard, Mjolnir had been picked up by Loki instead of Thor. That much power in the hands of such a trickster could lead to some very fun episodes of TV. A lot of the success of the Marvel movies in their interconnected universe is due to their impeccable sense of timing. Since leaving Phase 3 and the Avengers behind, nothing has changed in this respect. The upcoming Disney Plus show, WandaVision, is set to arrive punctually in 2021, right before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness hits theaters. WandaVision, so named for the Scarlet Witch's government name, Wanda Maximoff, will set the stage for her joining Doctor Strange in this upcoming solo movie. Although there will certainly be more to the show, you can be sure that its narrative arc will point in a bold arrow towards the next Doctor Strange, and maybe even include a small role for Mr. Cumberbatch. What's unclear is whether or not it'll flesh out Wanda's origin story, as a science experiment in the fictional Eastern European country of Sokovia, who went on the lam with her lover Vision, the other half of the show's title. Speaking of Vision, how on earth are they going to get him back, after having the Mind Stone plucked out of his noggin like a gumdrop at the end of Avengers Infinity War? The answers will come in 2021. Photon, Pulsar, Spectrum, Captain Marvel. These are just some of the names that Monica Rambeau has gone under in the course of her superhero career. A career that has never made a full jump to the screen, until now. Although she was introduced briefly in Captain Marvel as the star-struck daughter of Carol Danvers' best friend, Rambeau will now be appearing in WandaVision as a fully grown adult. Rambeau's character in the comics was blessed with all sorts of powers, including the ability to turn herself into and harness energy itself. Whether or not she has already undergone the freak accident that gave her those powers in WandaVision remains to be seen. In fact, in terms of her MCU character, pretty much the only thing we know is that she'll be played by Teyonah Parris, and there is no word yet on whether she'll get her own movie or show. What is certain is that Monica Rambeau and also Ms. Marvel will be playing larger roles as Marvel continues rolling out its next generation of content, as they're both associated with one of the flagship characters of Marvel's Phase 4, Captain Marvel. We've all been through rough patches, but Hawkeye really hit rock bottom in Avengers Endgame. After Thanos turned his family and half the universe into dust, Clint Barton went straight to the barbershop and got his floppy equivalent of breakup bangs. He followed that up with a rampage for the ages, who went across the globe and hunted down criminals who he thought more deserving of the great dusting than his own family. And, well, dusted them, demonstrating a deep misunderstanding of what makes the world blind. But now he's happily reunited with his wife and kids and can get right down to his Disney Plus show. The only question that remains is, what exactly will the show be about? With his dark chapter behind him, what is there to drive the story? Could this end up being a family sitcom set on the Barton Ranch where Hawkeye teaches his daughter to shoot a bow and arrow and his sons to play catch? More likely, the show will have Hawkeye in some way or another struggling with his past, attempting to right his wrongs or at least come to terms with himself. In any case, we won't find out for a while, as Hawkeye is the last on the lineup for Phase 4, coming out in fall of 2021. Although in recent days it's been overshadowed by the business deal, or lack thereof, that tore Spider-Man away from the MCU, another buyout has secured a very exciting future for Marvel with or without Peter Parker. The Disney buyout of Fox is very good news for fans of both the X-Men and the Fantastic Four franchises that are now officially owned by Disney, and so ready to be produced by Marvel. But now that they're in the Marvel wheelhouse, how will they be introduced into the MCU? Most likely it'll happen in WandaVision. Scarlet Witch, the star of WandaVision, is a mutant and an X-Men character since 1964. The way she received her powers in the MCU, which was as the subject in a science experiment, has been altered from her original story where she's the daughter of Magneto. How much more X-Men does it get? The tweaks to her origin story could point to a more general reimagining of the creation of mutants and the X-Men for the purposes of the MCU. Some theories even have Wanda creating mutants, not with her own two hands, but with her very powerful mutations. With almost a year and a half before its release, there will likely be more details about WandaVision very soon. One of the most exciting upcoming MCU shows is She-Hulk, which will tell the story of Jennifer Walters, who acquires her Hulk powers after an emergency blood transfusion where the only match available is, you guessed it, her cousin Bruce Banner. Jennifer has more control over her green side than Bruce and can switch back and forth almost at will. She combines the brains and brawn. But after running, jumping, crashing, and grunting his way through the first 3 Avengers movies, the Hulk finally put on a pair of glasses and calmed down in Endgame. This could be the perfect moment for him to cross over into the world of She-Hulk, who has already got her inner, or I guess outer green monster under control and is working as a lawyer to fight crime. Hulk not smash! Hulk litigate! Although Captain Marvel has a massive fan base in the real world, her #1 supporter comes from the world of comics. Kamala Khan, also known as Miss Marvel, is so enamored with Carol Danvers that when Danvers ditched the Miss Marvel title and switched her prefix to Captain, Kamala slid in and assumed the unclaimed Miss Marvel mantle. The Jersey City hero, who up until now has been represented primarily in the comics, now has her very own show on Disney+. The man behind Marvel, Kevin Feige, has confirmed that in the Miss Marvel show, Khan will be graced with the presence of her idol, Captain Marvel. Now, who is Miss Marvel? She's from Jersey City and is the first Muslim title character in Marvel history. After coming into contact with Terrigen Mist, she became what's called a polymorph. No, not a polymath. This means that she can shapeshift her body into any form she chooses. She can stretch like Mr. Fantastic, Elastigirl from The Incredibles, and yes, Elastic Man. But she can also assume the form of other people and things. Miss Marvel is one of many new heroes that Marvel has assembled around the character of Captain Marvel, and could possibly lead to a new Avengers-type film. Moon Knight, not to be confused with the Dark Knight, is an unlikely superhero. A former boxer, CIA agent, and mercenary, he was given his powers by a statue of the Egyptian deity Khonshu during a near-death experience in the desert. Although he is actually quite similar to Batman in that he's a skilled martial artist with a lot of gadgets, including a mooncopter designed by his French sidekick, he does also have some cool mystical powers. His strength is tied to the phases of the moon, so when it wanes, his strength ebbs. When the moon is full, he is almost unstoppable. He also has prophetic visions and dreams, and the ability to drain another person's life energies through physical contact. The obvious tie-in would be with Doctor Strange, whose mystical powers are the most similar to Moon Knight's of anyone in the MCU, and who also has a movie coming out in Phase 4. Loki, the cheeky trickster of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, made his last exit in Avengers Endgame when he popped in to sabotage the Avengers' time-hopping heist, stealing the Space Stone and disappearing through a mysterious cosmic portal. Everyone was curious about this loose end that was given no explanation even after the dust settled in Endgame. As of 2021, there will be no need to be curious anymore, as Loki will have his own show that will pick up right where the events of Endgame left off. The showrunner of the Disney Plus show will be Michael Waldron, a writer for Rick and Morty, so you can be sure that Loki's troublemaking antics will be ratcheted up to an absurd degree. If we've learned anything from the Avengers series, it's that Loki doesn't like to mind his own business. His favorite and most frequent activities are acts of self-interested sabotage. So expect him to pop up in many of the other forthcoming Phase 4 movies and shows to throw a wrench in everyone's plans. Although it does seem unlikely that Loki will end up in Blade. It would only seem natural for him to end up in the middle of Doctor Strange's adventure. As for the next Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, it's pretty much certain that Loki will be on hand to meddle in matters of love and stir up some godly Norse thunder. The late Stan Lee was the master of the cameo. Whether he was drinking gamma-radiated soda in The Incredible Hulk or calmly shelving books amidst a fight between a superhero and a giant lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man, Stan Lee gracefully transitioned out of being a central figure in the creation of Marvel content to an emblem of the studio publisher's history. The same opportunity now exists for a whole generation of heroes that came to an end after Avengers Endgame. There are possibilities from throughout the history of Marvel Studios, and not just in the MCU. The most obvious and the most vital is Blade. If fans don't get a cameo from Wesley Snipes in the new version starring Mahershala Ali, there will be hell to pay, especially if Ali can't recreate one of the most stylish characters to ever grace the screen. Another cameo that's more likely than not is Chris Evans coming back to smooth over tensions between his two protégés in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. As we mentioned earlier, the duo of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes might require some conflict resolution, to say the least. And who better to do it than their retired mentor? The occult is on the rise in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Scarlet Witch has her own show, Blade is back, and Marvel is bringing Moon Knight out of the world of comics and into the MCU. Never a studio to simply release a standalone movie, Marvel has to have big crossover plans for Blade and its Oscar-winning star Mahershala Ali. The other Marvel character that would make the most sense would be Moon Knight, another nocturnal hero whose abilities come from real life as much as from superpowers. They are of almost opposite backgrounds, which would make their meeting that much more iconic. Moon Knight is a former boxer, CIA agent, and mercenary, while Blade is a product of the Detroit underground 90s fashion trends and centuries of vampire lore. The two also share roots in the after-dark world of the occult. Blade is half vampire, only the good side, but also a vampire hunter. Moon Knight gains his strength from the moon and is also able to drain someone else's life energies through physical contact, which sounds an awful lot like sucking blood. The two would be a duo for the ages. Let's hope that Marvel sees the potential for a very stylish moonlit collaboration. Yes, the Avengers is officially over, but Marvel is just getting started. In the past, a movie franchise would have left it at that, or maybe eked out a disappointing sequel. But Marvel is introducing a whole new roster of movies and Disney Plus shows with the end goal of uniting them in an Avengers-style team. The only question that remains is, who will it be? Many of the characters from the previous phase of Marvel content have been kept on the roster, like Thor, Black Widow, Loki, Hawkeye, and maybe, hopefully, Spider-Man. At this early stage, one of the prime candidates to lead the new supergroup is Captain Marvel. First of all, there's the name, plus she's got a great supporting cast that could follow in her footsteps: Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau. There's also the possibility, hinted at by Miss Marvel, of a young Avengers movie coming sometime in the near future, that could sustain at least a whole decade of Marvel movies to come. It has been a very rough week for Spider-Man fans, but there's still reason to hope. After the cliffhanger at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, Marvel would be crazy not to return to the negotiation table, as Spider-Man is the most direct link so far to their next phase of releases. Since the events of Avengers Endgame, the only Marvel movie that's been released is Far From Home, which was given the responsibility of closing the third phase of the MCU that included some of the biggest movies ever. Iron Man, the de facto leader of the Avengers, mentored Spidey in this third phase. The torch has been passed, or as Holland would say, "We did it, Mr. Stark." Since the loss of Spider-Man, Marvel's upcoming releases look conspicuously superstarless. In all the upcoming shows, whether it be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, or Loki, they don't have the marquee star power of Spider-Man, Iron Man, or the original Captain America. They could probably do with the boost of Spidey swinging through every now and then. And could you imagine the revisions of What If without your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Marvel's Phase 4 titles are all focused on the future of their characters and the future of the MCU, except for one, which looks back at what has already happened and asks the question that, as fans, we can't help asking ourselves: what if? Based on the 1970s comic series of the same name, the Disney Plus show will, in its first season, deal only with the 23 movies of the Infinity Saga, and the coulda, shoulda, wouldas all the way up to the end of Endgame. A pure gesture of fan base wish fulfillment. As anyone who has been at all anxious knows, the possibilities of this show are endless. One specific twist that Kevin Feige mentioned is giving the super soldier serum to Peggy Carter instead of Steve Rogers, something that would change almost 70 years of history in Marvel time. This storyline seems all but confirmed, with Stanley Tucci, Haley Atwell, Dominic Cooper, and Toby Jones all signed up to lend their voice acting talents to What If. There will be 23 episodes in the first season of the show. That's one for every movie. 25 actors are currently signed on, including Josh Brolin, Chris Hemsworth, and Chadwick Boseman. If you can believe it, that's only the beginning. There will certainly be more connections as the beginning of Phase 4 approaches. We'll keep the videos and news coming, so don't forget to subscribe to CBR and leave us your dream what-if scenario in the comments. Till next time.